Hi, Assalamualaikum everyone. Don't forget to join me for our Eventurous talk. See you.
Así que tú querías, chingadín. Aquí te traigo tu borombón, mamá.
So now, first of all, I would like to welcome to all of you to this forum discussion. And this forum discussion is mainly about the issues on event risk management and safety. So I hope that all of you in the pink of health and always take care of your health and also safety, especially during this pandemic COVID-19 situation. So before the discussion begin, allow me to introduce the panelists. Our first panelist is Mr. Muhammad Haikal. He is the president of Event Management Student Society (AIMS) from UiTM Puncak Alam campus. And the second one, our second panelist is Dr. ARIF. He is the event lecturer from UiTM Puncak Alam. And our last but definitely not least panelist is Mr. Muhammad DANIAL. He is a freelance event planner. So before I invite Mr. Haikal, our first panelist, to give his explanation about the issue, let me first tell to you guys what risk management is. So broadly, event risk is the possibility that an unforeseen event will negatively affect a company, industry, or security, causing a loss to investor or also stakeholders. Risk management is an essential aspect of planning an event. Risk management plan identifies all the potential risks that may arise from holding an event and list the steps event organizer will take to reduce or mitigate identified risks. So without further ado, let's move on to our first discussion regarding issues in event risk management and also safety. As Mr. Haikal, I want to ask you a question. As a student of event management, what does your opinion about this issue?
Okay. Assalamualaikum and good evening. Thank you to our moderator, Mr. Aiman. To start, risk managers sometimes they make mistake in assessing the probability or the size of losses. Similarly, they sometimes use wrong observation. For example, event organizer they tend to miscalculate the risk or losses that they might suffer in the future. In this matter, the failure in doing so will result to the organizer of the event or their client to bear a much bigger cost apart from what they have calculated earlier or expected earlier. So a loss will affect every aspect of the event, especially to the crew until to the top management of the event. So furthermore, in the future, it may jeopardize the organizing company's reputation or the image of the event stakeholder. Mismeasurement of known risk is a common problem. It is commonly happen in the event industry. So for me, I think mismeasurement of known risk is among the main issue in managing risk and also safety in this industry.
So thank you, Mr. Haikal, for your explanation. So next, Dr. Arif, in your opinion or in your point of view as an event lecturer, do you agree with the points and also explanation provided by Mr. Haikal previously?
Thank you, our host of the program, Mr. Aiman, for inviting me to this Eventurous talk program. And first of all, I agree with what Mr. Haikal said. But I have another one opinion for the important and the biggest risk for me, which is failure to communicate with the top management. Why this is important to me? Because failure to communicate with the top management is really a bad thing that can happen to our event. Why we need to communicate well in this event? It is because the board of our event or the event managers need to know the exact information about our event. So if the crew or the employee not giving or not transferring the information or the risk about their event to the top management, the top management can make a wrong decision or a wrong move that can be a disaster for the event. And also the organizer also can be overconfident with their event progress. They will think their event can be successful easily without knowing the issue that they have on their event.
Thank you, Dr. Arif, for your opinion. So next, how about you, Mr. Irham? As an event planner, do you have any opinion?
Thank you, Mr. Aiman. First of all, thank you, Dr. Arif. I understand the point you mentioned just now, which is about failure to communicate the risk to top management. But in my opinion, I would say failure in monitoring and managing risk as the main issue in event risk management and safety. This is because monitoring risk is a project management activity that is essentially about managing expected and unexpected changes in project. Failure to monitoring and managing the risk can lead to the three. First, late running projects unforeseen can significantly slow down a project because it takes time to understand them, analyze them, and prepare management plans to monitor, act, and track them. Okay, second is overspend budget risk management costs money. However, the cost of dealing with poor risk management if a risk materializes and becomes a real issue for your business is normally far more. Budgets overrun happen when risk and the associated action related to managing them effectively aren't budgeted for. And the third is unhappy clients don't want to be involved in something that is perceived to be high risk. They need to know what you are doing to mitigate any potential threats and that you have got a sensible plan B in place.
Now let's move on to our second subtopic, which is how to overcome the issues in event risk management and also safety. So Dr. Arif, based on your explanation towards the issue, how do you think the top management can ensure the employee from failing to communicate the risk?
Yes, what we can do to prevent this thing happen? Failure to communicate with the top management. What we can do is, from the top management itself, they need to fully inform their employee or their crew about what tasks that they need to do on the event. Not just the task, but also the responsibility that they take on the event itself. If the crew already know what they're responsible that they are holding, what the task that they need to do, I think they will be understand what things need to communicate to the top management. They will communicate because they understand their job. So my opinion is fully explain to the crew and to the employee and guide them on during the event also, that things can be solved.
Thank you, Dr. Arif, for your opinion and also explanation. So let's move to Mr. Irham. Do you have any idea on how to overcome your point, which is failure to monitoring and managing the risk?
Thank you, Mr. Aiman. First thing, before we want to assess risk in an event, I always ask this question: what do you need to monitor risk? The answer is definitely a risk management plan. This is a guide for project manager to understand how to deal with managing risk on the project. And how you do it? How? Okay, the first is reassessing project risk. As the project progresses, you find out that some of the risks are not relevant. Probability or priorities of your risks are changed and new risks are identified. All this can be found by regularly reassessing the risk in risk register. Second is analyzing risk
Trends in simpler terms, this is about looking at project performance over a period of time, studying the trends of cost, schedule and scope variances from baselines, and then trying to forecast whether there is a risk of any of them going rough in near future. If the trend indicates possibilities of any of the risks materializing, then preventive actions are planned and put in place.
That's a good point, Mr. Irham. How about Mr. Haikal? Do you have any suggestion based on your opinion earlier?
Okay. Suggestion based on my point. A project manager need to take note on everything that a risk manager has highlighted or mentioned, and they need to look into the risk or an issue immediately and find a way on how to contain it. Okay. Last but not least, I think everyone in the project must put risk and safety as priority in order to avoid any incident to the event crowd, event crew, or the event participant in the future. Okay, that's all from me.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the end of our forum session for today. So, as to conclude, identifying and also monitoring the event risk is very, very essential in the project management activity. So every aspect of event, especially with the risk assessment, need to be determined and briefly planned to avoid any miscommunication and mismeasurement of risk from happening. So thank you to all of our panel for today, which is Mr. Haikal, Dr. Arif, and also Mr. Irham. That was a great idea. Till then, a very good day. Thank you. Thank you to everyone for spending your time with us. See you next week on the same YouTube channel, same time with me, your host. Assalamualaikum. Bye.
There's a road I'd like to tell you about. Lives in my hometown. Lakeshore Drive, the road is calling. It'll take you up or down.